I think the important thing is cultivate a deep sense of empathy. That's very important. If you are in a people business, you need to have that, because truly understanding and respecting the mirrored backgrounds, values, aspirations for people is the foundation.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the People Led Show. I'm your host, Tehsil Ghazi, and our guest for today is Rajiv Naithani. He is the Chief People Officer at Infogain and is a seasoned HR leader with over 2 decades of experience in the field. He's previously held positions in organizations like the SAW Systems, Global Logic, and HCL Technologies. He's also on the board of trustees at Pauri Galwal Trust, an NGO for social and educational empowerment for underprivileged children in the state of Uttarakhand. Much like this podcast, Rajiv takes a people-led approach to delivering employee experiences at scale. Welcome, Rajiv. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me here, Taisi.
Rajiv, I think, like we do with all conversations with HR leaders, we want to know the human behind the human resources. So my first question to you is, who is Rajiv outside of work?
If I get to answer this, it will take a lot of time, but let me actually put a structure to this. So outside of my professional space, I have a diverse set of interests that span across various aspects of life. For me, work is part of my life. It is not the only thing. Firstly, I'm deeply committed to my physical well-being. I've been practicing yoga for quite some time now, and I truly believe in its transformative power from that standpoint. Additionally, I'm an outdoor enthusiast, be it cycling. I've done various expeditions, any sports outdoor, I love to give my hand. In addition to this perspective, I spend quality time with my family. That gives me it's a source of joy for me. On a more introspective note, I find solace in delving deep into inner self, whether it's penning down a heartfelt Hindi poem or immersing myself into spiritual readings, practicing meditation, or even capturing some of my imagination through sketches, right? So it's all about introspection. And lastly, I'm passionate about imparting knowledge and sharing my experiences. Most of the times over the weekend, I would be busy spending time and interacting with the young and inquisitive minds in different colleges or speaking in different industry forums. To me, it's a power of collective growth and learning. It's a wonderful feeling to inspire and be inspired in return. So these are some of the things which I do, Taiseen.
Wow, Rajiv. I mean, those are some amazing things. You're into yoga, cycling, trekking, creativity. Those are so many things. And I think, every time I speak to an HR leader and I think that, okay, maybe I've heard everything, I hear something new. And I think for me, this time it was, meditation, reflection.
Yeah, it gives me a lot of resilience.
Absolutely.
Stressful situations.
Absolutely. Rajiv, if I may ask, go into one aspect of your life which you've not covered at the moment, but like I mentioned briefly in your introduction, you've been part of Pauri Galwal Trust, an NGO for social and educational empowerment for children. I would love the audience to know about that.
Sure. So thanks for asking me that question, Tessie. My roots are from Uttarakhand. I was born in Pauri Galwal. When I was 4, my father uprooted us and we moved to Delhi NCR. And since then, I've lived away from the roots and the hills. But I have seen the hardship in the hills. In some places, people are blessed, so they have schools nearby, infrastructure developing, etc. But all this led me to get into a space where I felt the need to do something back for the community and society of Uttarakhand. And that's where I got associated to this NGO. I'm a board of trustee of it. So what we do is that we go to different remote areas of Uttarakhand. We hold camps there, and in those camps, we interact with kids. We give scholarship to them. We take care of some of their expenses as well. And it gives immense satisfaction to us when we are actually delivering it on ground, covering huge distance, going miles of distance from cities to remote areas of Uttarakhand, and then doing all these activities and meeting these kids. They give you a lot of energy when you do that.
That is great. That is awesome. Rajiv, I think I'll pivot here a little bit, and I want to ask you more about your role as a chief people officer, right, at Infogain. what are some of the top 2-3 dilemmas or questions that you face as a CPO, and what are you doing about it?
One of the perpetual dilemmas I face is balancing act between people and business, right? So my analytical side of the brain leads me to business needs, which I understand is essential because we all exist in a corporate world to generate the wealth for the shareholders, and it's not a charity. But despite of that, my heart invariably gravitates towards the well-being of our employees. And sometimes you'll have those situations, right, where you need to strike the right balance, and you understand that, oh, there's a situation of a business where it's essential to take certain measures, but then you have this heart driving you that, okay, so how do you manage this? What's the impact, etc.? What will it do, etc. to people? And lastly, if I were to talk about, as a role, and also as a leader, which is beyond the role, it's a responsibility for any leader like me to exude positivity and assurance, right, even when there's a looming doubt about the outcome. And there could be an internal struggle, that, okay, there is a realism or reality which is different from optimism, right?
I think so. I want to just go a little deeper into the first thing that you spoke about, that is how to strike a balance between business and people, right? So are there any certain, is there a framework or a strategy or a structure that you follow to ensure that you're doing justice to both business and people?
I think as a HR professional, it's very important that employee first should drive the organization culture, because ultimately, who are the stakeholders? Employee, customers, and the shareholders. To me, these are my three stakeholders. If I look after my people well, and if I keep them motivated enough and inspire them enough to go extra miles, they will actually give a positive outcomes to our customers. And when there's a positive outcomes to our customers, they would have the sense of loyalty and association with us. And eventually our shareholders will be happy because there's a valuation. I think in a tough situations, you need to remain measured. You need to see what are the right steps, but don't go extreme. I think it's important that at that stage, make a decision which is helpful, decision both ways. I'll give you one example, real life example. So what had happened was during COVID, when companies were doing salary cuts, etc., because there was an impact, we said that let's not go that path because it was a difficult year. And at the same time, the character of the organizations are tested during those difficult times. So we went to people, we said that we don't want to cut the salary, but we have a situation which is, other than cash flow in terms of delivering what we need to deliver as a bare minimum. And we said that one option is we cut the salary, which we don't want to do. Other option is that we reserve portion of our compensation and tie that up with the revised numbers which we have set, which are more realistic. And if we achieve that, that money goes to the employees directly, no changes. And eventually, we had that metrics of, we said that, okay, so minimum is 50%, then 75%, 100%, 125%. We ended up paying 125% of that amount. So people actually, if somebody was to get 100,000, that person actually got 125,000. So that's how you balance it out in my view. You don't need to go extreme. Enroll people, be transparent with them, and help them understand the situation. People understand, they're reasonable.
I think, I told you that I want to dig deeper into your third point, but I think with this example that you just shared, you covered both the points about balancing people versus analytics, as well as, building that trust. So I think this is a great example of that. Apart from that, Rajiv, so, this is one thing is building trust by, following through your promises. But how do you, at the ground level, how do you listen to your employees and understand what they want, what they are looking for, how their experiences are in the organization? What are some ways that you're listening to your employees?
Yeah. So let me actually make it more personalized as a HR leader of the company or leader of the people function. I think the listening is at the core of effective leadership to me, especially in my role. So what I do is, number one, I believe in open door policy. Right, when I'm in office and not in the meeting, I make sure that my door is open and people, have that approachability and accessibility message to them. And I don't ask people, have you blocked my calendar? What level are you, etc. It's easy access for them. Second is, what I consciously do is that I meet with a group of 4 to 5 people every week on Wednesday. I call it Coffee Connect, and in that I may have a specific band/grade level employees coming from different geographies within India. We also do a much more structured diagnostic intervention with the help of Great Place to Work. We have this annual study, which actually gives us the holistic pulse of our employees on a yearly basis. And at the same time, in addition to Great Place to Work, we have People Support Experience Survey, which is done to gauge the experience of employees with different enabler functions. And then there are forums which are demographic based, skip level forums, middle management level forums, town halls, all hands meets, fresher group forums. So we keep doing these activities to ensure that you're listening, you're connected with the people. I think one listening which is beyond all the structure is you actually observe. That's something which is much valuable in my view than others, while others are equally important though.
I think that's the maximum number of listening channels I've got from any HR leader so far.
I'll tell you one more then. What we are doing is, being a technology company, we are actually doing a pilot on sentiment analysis. Primarily, the intent of that is to see how our customers are, what the customer sentiments are. So we are leveraging AI, which will help study the emails, and actually, it will happen on the server, and then they will actually give us a report of the sentiments of the customers. As we progress and mature this, we may even apply this to our employees and see all employees' emails which are coming to support functions or our process owners, what sentiments are getting reflected. That will give you a good sentiment analysis of the company as well. And that's a great listening in my view.
I think I have around 7 or 8, listening channels. Then I'm sure you're doing Infogain is doing a great job listening to their employees and, ensuring that they know the pulse of employees. So, Rajiv, one of the things, so you've done, you're listening to employees through various, channels, and you're like ensuring anonymity. There is anonymity. There's an option to, even do one-on-one, give one-on-one feedback through, Coffee Connects, etc. So at an overall level, what have you seen that employees expect in terms of experience that they have at an organization? What are some of the expectations that employees have today?
So every individual and every demographic and every level of experience will have different expectations from the organization on this particular thing to be able to actually to see that what are we dealing with or to present that to you. Since post-pandemic in particular, we have seen that the working models change, right? So today, what kind of workplace we have? We have a workplace where 90% people may have not come to office at all in last 3 years. 2/3 of them may have joined the organization during the pandemic. So they have never seen what Infogain is physically, right? Now, when you have a demographic like this, and this demographic has seen that the change in job was the change of laptop only, nothing else. The second is you have the connecting point for this kind of demographic as a manager. Who's the bridge today between the organization and employee? It's the manager. If my perception and experience with the organization is to be validated, it will be validated through my experience with my manager. And the other thing which has also emerged as part of it, which I should not forget, is that work-life balance. Now, the work and life has that, earlier the demarcation was very clear when 9 to 6 used to be the working hours. After 6, it's my personal life. Unless you're in leadership critical roles, you were never even taking calls, etc. But now that has blurred. So people are available all the time because it's a virtual thing. So what do we need to do? We first need to really find out what is our brand promise to our people. What is our employee value proposition? And we want to redefine it completely in this renewed working context point of view. So what do we do there? Or what can be done? So one is definitely we need to make sure that late evening calls, if it is not client call, we should not arrange any calls like that. Late evening calls should not be done. Friday, second half onward, there should not be any calls so that people have their free space available. Now, third is help managers to become effective managers in leading virtual teams. So we invested on their development. Now, in addition to these broader perspective, there would always be aspects in terms of people expect certain things from a benefits standpoint. You need to keep looking at your benefits proposition, policies proposition, the infrastructure solutioning in a virtual environment. And we have actually moved from push-based to pull-based, where we have a Infogain we call it learning experience portal, where people actually go look at basis their roles, what learning journey they have made available on the platform. They want to follow through that with their own ease and time, because it's not about classroom anymore.
These are some really great insights, right? And I think one line that you said that really stuck with me is, in today's date, change of job is equal to change of laptop. And I think that kind of, says it all. It kind of encapsulates why HR needs to go through some change, because the whole fabric of, employee experience has changed in the past 3 years. I think I just have last two questions left. The first one is on productivity. I think this is a constant, continuous challenge that all people leaders face, how to improve employee productivity. And now more so because of, the whole, like with us, moving in with AI, so much talk about AI, employee productivity has come at the forefront. So any specific structure or frameworks that you have, that you follow, that you would like to share with our audience on how they can impact employee productivity and efficiency?
The GI introduces promising avenues for streamlining and enhancing the overall product lifecycle development timeline. So, what customers are also, everybody's trying to find out how much of time productivity saving will happen from overall man hours perspective, person hours perspective. The preliminary estimate suggests that leveraging GI can potentially boost productivity up by 20 to 25%. So, which means that much of saving on the time efforts will happen. Now, that's a shift which will definitely come on the service industry like ours, right? So, some companies actually go extra mile, and to me, that's a very extreme. What they do is that they will have solutions which they will install on their employees' computer, which monitors where are you spending how many hours on the on your computer, which application, which website, etc. And that to me is like policing. You're actually, it's not enhancing productivity, but you're actually policing to see who's spending what time where. In my mind, or in my view, it's not important that how much time do you spend. What is more important is, what is your output, what is the impact, what is the quality of that output. I may work for 5 hours and code, but my output may not be as equivalent to someone who is only coding for 2 hours but giving much better output. So that way, it's very relative sometimes. The productivity would be driven by individuals. So what's more important hence becomes that, what is the culture of the organization? Definitely people discipline, maturity is super critical, because ultimately that's a self-discipline. But at the same time, if the organization does not do the policing thing, but creates an environment where everybody feels empowered with responsibility and accountability, then that's the best way of managing productivity. That's how I see it.
Got it, Rajiv. I think what I'm hearing here is, the change of narrative from, being time driven to output driven, outcome driven. And I think that's a major shift that we're talking about here. I think my last question to you today is, as an HR leader, what is one piece of advice you would like to give all budding HR leaders out there, people who want to, reach the ranks of, to be a CHRO someday? What is your advice for them?
I think it won't be appropriate for me to give advices to anyone, because everybody has their own journey, own space, and own aspiration and path to that path which leads to that aspiration. But if you want to be a people leader, whether it's a CHR or any name you give, I think the important thing is cultivate a deep sense of empathy. That's very important. If you are in a people business, you need to have that, because truly understanding and respecting the myriad backgrounds, values, aspirations of people is a foundation. This is very important, and by fostering an environment where every individual feels heard, they feel valued, they feel empowered, I'm sure they will go extra mile. I think the most important thing is, as a people function leader, employee first should be a priority, driven by the sense of empathy, and inspire and motivate people so that they're always going extra mile and impacting the business outcomes positively. That possibly would be the advice, so to say, if I were to.
Awesome. That is great, Rajiv. I think we have like a lot of, great insights from you, right from, productivity, confidentiality, anonymity, employee listing. We have a lot there. So thank you very much. I think, it was a great conversation with you.
Likewise, thank you, Tassie.